I found a USB drive in the forest. What was on it haunts me. The late afternoon sun dappled through the dense canopy as Ethan, 32 and an avid hiker, veered off the main trail. He was exploring a less traveled section of Blackwood Forest, a sprawling expanse of ancient trees and winding paths just outside his town. He enjoyed the solitude, the feeling of being immersed in nature, away from the constant hum of modern life. He was tracing the course of a small, burbling creek when something glinted in the leaf litter near the water's edge. He bent down and picked it up. It was a USB drive, slightly muddy but otherwise intact. It looked relatively new, a simple black rectangular shape with no identifying marks. Ethan frowned. It seemed an odd thing to find so deep in the woods. Someone must have lost it. He considered leaving it where it was, hoping the owner would retrace their steps, but curiosity, that persistent human trait, nudged him. He slipped it into his pocket, intending to check its contents when he got home, hoping to find a name or contact information. Back in the quiet of his study, the USB drive lay on his desk, a small, silent mystery. He plugged it into his computer, a flicker of anticipation mixed with a sense of mild apprehension. His antivirus software whirred briefly, then indicated the drive was clean. He clicked to open it. The contents were sparse, a single folder labeled, Project Nightingale. Inside the folder were several files. The first few were text documents with cryptic titles like, Sequence Alpha, Protocol Chimera, and, Observation Log, Subject 7. He opened, Sequence Alpha. It was a string of seemingly random numbers and letters, interspersed with strange symbols he didn't recognize. Protocol Chimera was equally baffling, a series of technical-sounding instructions that made no sense in any context he could imagine. The Observation Log, Subject 7 inches was different. It was written in plain English, formatted like a daily journal. The entries were dated, starting about 6 months prior. The writer, who only referred to themselves as observer, described observing someone, identified only as Subject 7. The observations were unsettlingly detailed, noting the subject's daily routines, habits, and even their emotional states. The tone was detached, clinical, almost predatory. Day 1. Subject 7 exhibits expected patterns of behavior. Commutes to place of employment via public transport. Consumes prefabricated meals. Minimal social interaction. Day 32. Subject 7 displayed a deviation from routine. Visited a location identified as Blackwood Forest. Duration of visit: 3 hours, 17 minutes. No discernible interaction with other individuals. Ethan's blood ran cold. Blackwood Forest. That was where he had found the USB drive. Could Subject 7 be someone who frequented the forest? Could the observer have been watching them there? He continued reading. The entries became increasingly disturbing. The observer seemed to be documenting subtle changes in Subject 7's behavior, noting signs of stress, paranoia, and a growing sense of unease. There were mentions of interventions and adjustments, terms that sent a shiver of dread down Ethan's spine. He opened the next file, a video. The thumbnail was a still image of what looked like a living room. He clicked play. The video was silent and static, the image slightly grainy. After a few minutes, a figure moved into the frame. It was a person, sitting on a couch, seemingly unaware of the camera. The angle suggested it was hidden. The person in the video matched a brief physical description of Subject 7 mentioned in the observation logs. Ethan felt a growing sense of violation, a sickening feeling of voyeurism. Someone had been secretly recording this person, documenting their life in minute detail. He opened another video. This one showed the exterior of a house, the camera seemingly positioned across the street. He recognized the style of architecture, it was common in his town. Could Subject 7 live nearby? The next file was an audio recording. A low, rhythmic humming sound filled his speakers, interspersed with faint, almost subliminal whispers. He couldn't make out any words, but the overall effect was deeply unsettling. He scrolled through the remaining files. There were more observation logs, more static videos, more unsettling audio recordings. The last file was a single image. It was a photograph, taken at night, of a person sleeping in their bed. The person looked like Subject 7. The invasion of privacy was complete, and deeply disturbing. Ethan felt a profound sense of unease. This wasn't just someone losing a USB drive. This felt like something far more sinister, a glimpse into a world of obsessive surveillance and unknown intentions. He disconnected the USB drive, his hands trembling slightly. He felt a responsibility to do something, but what? Who was Subject 7? Who was the observer? And what was Project Nightingale? He spent the next few days wrestling with what he had found. He considered going to the police, but what would he tell them? He found a USB drive with creepy files. It felt flimsy, insufficient to convey the deep sense of wrongness he felt. He decided to try and find Subject 7. The observation logs mentioned a few key locations, a specific bus route, a particular library branch, a small coffee shop downtown. He started frequenting these places, his eyes scanning the faces, trying to match them to the blurry images in the videos and the brief descriptions in the logs. Days turned into a week. He saw many people, but none that definitively matched Subject 7. The feeling of being involved in something he didn't understand grew stronger. He felt like he was peering into a dark abyss. Then, one afternoon at the coffee shop, he saw her. A woman sitting alone at a corner table, reading a book. She matched the description of Subject 7 perfectly. Her dark hair, the way she tilted her head when she read, even the small, almost imperceptible nervous tick she had with her fingers, it all aligned. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He felt a strange mix of relief and terror. He had found her. Now what? He considered approaching her, telling her what he had found. But the thought of revealing that someone had been secretly watching her, documenting her life, felt incredibly intrusive and potentially dangerous. What if the observer was still out there? What if he was watching Ethan now? He decided to observe her for a while, just as the observer had done. He watched her finish her coffee, pack her bag, and leave the shop. He discreetly followed her, keeping a safe distance. She walked to a nearby apartment building and went inside. Now he knew where Subject 7 lived. The weight of the information was heavy. He still didn't know what to do with it. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The files on the USB drive played in his mind, the static videos, the unsettling audio, the detached observations. He kept thinking about the fear and paranoia Subject 7 had reportedly been experiencing. He made a decision. He had to warn her, somehow, without revealing the extent of his knowledge or putting her in more danger. The next morning, he printed out an anonymous note, warning her that someone might be watching her, that she should be careful. He didn't mention the USB drive or the specifics of what he had found. He folded the note and slipped it into her mailbox at the apartment building he had seen her enter. He felt a small sense of relief, but the unease lingered. He had done what he thought was right, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had only scratched the surface of something much larger and much darker. A few days later, he went back to Blackwood Forest, hoping to find some clue about who might have lost the USB drive. He retraced his steps, scanning the leaf litter. This time, he found something else. Partially hidden beneath a fallen log was a small, metallic object. It looked like a miniature camera. The lens pointed towards the area where he had found the USB drive. His blood ran cold. He hadn't just stumbled upon someone's lost files. He had found evidence of active surveillance. The observer hadn't just been documenting Subject 7, they had been watching the forest too, possibly watching him. He picked up the camera carefully, placing it in a plastic bag. He knew he couldn't ignore this anymore. This wasn't just creepy, it was potentially criminal. He went to the police. This time, he had more than just a USB drive with unsettling files. He had a surveillance camera found near the location where he discovered the drive. He explained his findings, the observation logs, the videos, the audio recordings, his anonymous note to the woman he believed was Subject 7. The police took him seriously. They launched an investigation, taking the USB drive and the camera as evidence. They were able to identify the woman from Ethan's description and the limited information on the drive. They contacted her, and she confirmed that she had been feeling increasingly paranoid and had noticed strange occurrences around her apartment. The investigation led to a breakthrough. The metadata on the files and the serial number on the camera traced back to a private research firm specializing in behavioral studies. The firm had been conducting a controversial project involving the remote observation of individuals in their natural environments. Project Nightingale. Subject 7 was one of their research subjects. The observer was one of their researchers. The interventions and adjustments mentioned in the logs turned out to be subtle manipulations of the subject's environment and online interactions, designed to study their reactions to stress and isolation. The firm claimed it was all part of a legitimate scientific study, but the level of intrusion and the lack of informed consent raised serious ethical and legal questions. The humming sounds in the audio files were revealed to be low-frequency sonic pulses used to induce specific emotional states in the subject. The subliminal whispers were a controversial experimental technique involving auditory suggestion. The firm denied any malicious intent, claiming their research was aimed at understanding and potentially mitigating the effects of urban isolation. However, the evidence on the USB drive painted a far more disturbing picture of unchecked surveillance and manipulation. The police investigation continued, focusing on the ethical and legal implications of Project Nightingale. The research firm faced severe scrutiny and potential legal action. Subject 7 was offered support and protection. As for Ethan, he was left with a profound sense of unease and a lingering feeling of being haunted. He had stumbled upon a dark secret hidden in the seemingly innocent woods, a secret that revealed a disturbing capacity for unseen observation and manipulation in the modern world. The files on the USB drive, the static videos, the unsettling audio, they remained etched in his memory, a chilling reminder of the unseen eyes that might be watching, and the silent projects unfolding just beneath the surface of everyday life. The rustling of leaves in the forest, the hum of electronic devices, they now carried a subtle undercurrent of paranoia, a constant reminder of what he had found and the unsettling questions that remained unanswered.